All right, so I've got a giant grid today. It's 80 divisions, but it's on the biggest hexagons that I ever use. And zoom that out. And I'm going to be folding a brand new pattern. It's not a difficult pattern, but it is one I've never folded before. And I'm going to go ahead and move at full speed. It starts with an open hexagon in the middle. So I made sure those folds for storing the grid, I made sure that those are going through the center. Then I have something to reference for these next folds. And I can verify that these mountain folds are one space away from the pinch marks at the edges once I get out there. And feel free to drop questions or comments in the chat. Happy to respond. I also did put on my headphones, so I have a episode of Dear Hank and John queued up if there's no conversation. Looks like we're not feeling chatty today. So I'll go ahead and hit play for myself. Ah, I've been folding this round. Okay. These triangles go over here. I was just not paying attention. Oh yeah, hi early. Glad you could join us. Yes, very big sheets. So what just happened there is I had paid attention to how the center triangle was and how the next hexagon was, but I did not pay attention to where that next triangle should be. And then that got me in trouble. Probably partly because I was listening to a podcast. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think my mic filters out the folding noises. So that's something I'll have to look into. Maybe one with less fancy features, less noise filtering. Because if I'm not talking, sometimes the folding noise doesn't come through either. Oh yeah, I understood what you meant. Oh good. There we go. Yeah, I'm happy to chat if y'all have questions or comments. We can do a conversation or we can do straight folding. I'm fine with either one. And all of these triangles. Usually I would say this to flip over and squash the triangles right away, but these were hanging out and being chill. Let's see. I think it'll be easier to find things over here because that's the side that I'm looking at the crease pattern from. Okay. And it doesn't really matter where I start the next one, because it's 3 pleats coming out. I get 1 hexagon and 2 triangles, so it doesn't matter which ones I start with. And that is our 3-fold symmetry position, which I think makes this the 2-fold position. So, go ahead and do it from this side. The next one will go here. This is about as fancy as it's going to get in this pattern. I'm going to then do a compound wrap. These two are in the same group. That goes to triangle on this side. Yeah, so I'll read the question out loud. Or not a question. No question for the moment. For now, folding for training and testing, made Maze Runner, and then transformed it into Hunger Games. Yeah, that's a good one to play with, because you basically can do a full transformation of any local chunk of that pattern. It's hex rhomb, tri-rhomb tiling pattern. For those of you who, don't have my entire corpus memorized. And there's these open rhombus flowers that show up if you change the size of the rhombus twist and bring the hexagon to the front. And you also need to change the size. I think the triangle twists also change. I don't know. I don't quite remember. But yeah, that's a fun one to play with, and you could extend that system to make really any pattern of those flowers that you want. They just can't overlap. Yeah. Yeah, the way I tend to think about it is kind of backwards from what you said earlier, that the open triangle in Hunger Games is actually part of the quote-unquote original pattern, the open just rhombi pattern. So if you take just rhombi and move those rhombus twists further away from the hexagon, and then you need open triangles in between. The crazy part about Maze Runner is that you get rid of all of the open triangles. You have full coverage with these flowers. And so I see it more as a transition from the open triangle to the closed than the closed to the open. Got a uncooperative triangle wrap. There we go. Hello, hello. Hello to the real bee. Yep. Yeah, early for doing Maze Runner first and then Hunger Games, that is the order that I designed them. But once I designed Hunger Games, I realized a deeper structure that that kind of informed how I talk about them. So for this pattern, I think it's actually easier to see what's going on from the side without the hexagons. This more weave into, I don't know what you would describe this as, honeycomb. But yeah, that's going to be able to repeat everywhere. One of my favorite parts about folding these giant sheets is that you get the crinkly noises along these very long plates. You also have to be creative in how you're holding the paper. So a lot of it is using one hand on one side, one hand on the other side, and making them work together to achieve things. So it would not be easy to show how I'm doing what I'm doing. Especially because I'm thinking a lot about how I'm doing it while I'm doing it. The last set of parallel pleats for this ring around the center. Yeah, Skytone has a very nice noise. Oh, funny story. In person, the Skytone, like especially if you're reversing your grid lines while gridding, it's really loud. And at the CFC conference that I was at the other week, towards the end, I was, doing I was doing a bunch of gridding the whole time, but I was working on bigger paper towards the end and doing some 48 and 64 division grids. And like during people's talks, I was reversing the creases, and I got several looks of like, who is making so much crinkly noise? And I'm like, I'm doing the best I can. It's just this paper has such a nice crackle and pop to it. That's part of what makes it good for folding tessellations too, because it really likes to snap into the grid lines that you've already set up. So it makes the folding a lot more accurate. And while we're on the topic of Skytone, I had some new paper packs manufactured, and those are available in my store now. They're large hexagons, not quite this, not really close to this large, but this size, reasonable size. I fold up to 64 divisions on those. And there are now packs of 50 available in my store. There's also packs of 50 squares that I would fold 64 divisions on. There we have a uncooperative triangle wrap. See if I can poke it. There we go. So yeah, those are both available. I use Skytone paper for pretty much all of my folding. And fun fact for those of you in Europe, this paper has now been delivered to Origami Shop. So Nicola will get that listed So these packs of large hexagons and squares, and also the small hexagons that I had manufactured in the fall. So those will be available through Origami Shop in the near future. And yeah, dozens of people with large sheets of Skytone, that would be fabulous. It would sound like there was a popcorn popper going off. So, making pretty rapid progress with this pattern. You can see I'm going to get a couple more rings, but it's not a ton. Let's see. Okay, if these two are feeding into this in the center, then there's my next triangle and hexagon and other triangle. Chun, 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 chun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very excited about Origami Shop making Skytone available to everyone in Europe. Yeah, with the shipping and the import taxes, and it's a lot. Okay. Hello, hello. Hello again, the real bee. Okay, yes. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I could zoom in a little bit so you can see more precisely what I'm doing. So I guess not everyone will know that I'm doing a series of patterns that use only open hexagon and closed triangle twists. I've been actually working on this for a couple years. And it's taking a while because I want to do all of these patterns at large scale, and also because there are a lot of them. I want it to be a combinatorics kind of thing. So I'm going for all of the patterns that use only open hexagon and closed triangle twists that repeat within 80 grid divisions, and I am doing a little bit of narrowing down within those bounds. So like I'm not going to do all the different patterns of stripes because that would get frankly annoying for me. Yeah. Oh yeah. And part of the large size is because I want them displayed together as an exhibition. So I do see it as a body of work. And part of why so many of them are being live streamed is because I don't think that I would actually do it if I didn't have an audience expecting me to do it at a certain time. So every year I'll do a couple more. And eventually I'll get them framed with backlighting for hanging on a wall. And we'll be able to have that as an exhibition. And yeah, it's a lot of different movements than normal, folding on a larger sheet. But good exercise. Oh yeah. Yeah, Hubble is fun. Desert Rose. Yeah, that's one of these open hexagon closed triangle ones. Definitely interesting to fold. The tricky bit with Desert Rose is that most of it uses tube pleat spacing, but there's some parts where you have to choose the spacing where it's actually one grid spacing instead of two. So heads up on that one. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's lots of cool paper. Oh, I think what's going on is that we have different time delays. My guess is that maybe the real beast started watching from earlier in the video and is not hearing what I'm saying as I'm saying it. That would make a lot of sense. Doesn't Hubble have some closed rhombi as well? I think I remember some rhombi in there. But yeah, it's mostly open hexagon, closed triangle. Oh yeah, and back to talking about the open hexagon closed triangle series, I've come to realize that there's about 80 patterns that meet my criteria of use only open hexagon and closed triangle twists, are not simple variations where you just add extra space between everything and repeat within 80 grid divisions. And yeah, I'm not folding all 80 whatever of those. So it is a selection, even though there are combinatorial aspects. Like for example, this pattern, I could use the exact same center cluster and get 3 different patterns based on the center cluster that are not directly alternating. Well, with this center cluster, actually, yeah, because the cluster includes the triangles that I forgot should be on the back. And that makes it an asymmetric cluster. It doesn't collapse to one of the alternating patterns. So there are 3 different ways to solve for putting those clusters together around a closed triangle in a position of 3-fold rotational symmetry. Whether that triangle is on the front or the back and which pleat it's connected to. There would be 4, but one of them requires it being way too close together. So I'm just doing 1 out of each of those sets, the densest one. And then I already mentioned there's a bunch of stripes. I'll do a couple interesting stripes. Like a couple months ago, I did melange, which is one of these stripe patterns with open hexagon closed triangle. That's the most isoarea of any isoarea pattern I've ever seen, because it uses the same handedness of twists on both sides. Yeah, isoarea pattern in the hexagons and triangles 6-fold tiling. You don't see that every day. And oh yeah. Yeah, if I was doing all of them, I would want someone else to grid it. Or a machine, as you say. Because I could happily, well, I could sit here and listen to podcasts and fold them all, but I would not want to put time into folding those grids, particularly when I have a lot of grids for Advent of Tess patterns to fold. Which I am already folding. Actually, I have a stack of grids over here. The grids for the demo pieces for Advent of Tess, I've got 8 to go. And so that's for like publishing the graphics, etc., etc. I'm also working actively every week on folding the pieces for the Advent of Tess ebook this year. They've all been designed. I mean, I say all the ones that I'm currently planning to do have been designed. But the way this goes is that there's usually 1 or 2 that I think of after I've folded some of the others. And I'm like, ooh, this would be a really cool one. And then I wait and see if I have some spare time to get that folded before the ebook comes out. There's usually 1 or 2 that squeak in at the last minute. It's not like those are a bounded set either. So it's patterns that continue differently from the same starting point. And there's literally infinitely many possible ones. So gotta draw a boundary somewhere. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but this hexagon that I'm folding right now is an exact repeat in the pattern of the one in the center. It's the one that has all of its triangles on the same side as the hexagon. Okay. Ooh, I'm getting all the way around this ring around the center. And we have hit the top of the hour, but I'm going to keep going a little bit. Because I can. And squish. Okay. So down here, this triangle is on the same side as that copy of the center. And this time I'm going to realize that those outer triangles are on the opposite side. That one's on the opposite side as well. And I think that's as close to the edge as I'm gonna go. So just this one last ring around the center. I have rotated my grid so that the tiling breaks are aligned with the edge, which is making the repeats not aligned with the edge. but we do get full repeats of the central cluster. It might look a little different. And I see something very exciting outside my window, which is a fresh load of wood chips, so I can do more landscaping stuff. This is what makes me very excited. That and figuring out new origami tessellation designs. So you might hear some beeping as that truck backs up. Let's see. Oh yeah. Hi, Adipi. Yeah, it's I know for a lot of people this is final season. There's a lot of stuff to do out and about. A lot of people are graduating. I'm actually going on a trip next week. I mean, I'll still do a live stream, but I'm going on a trip for my husband's niece's high school graduation. It's the first graduation in that generation on his side of the family. So everyone's coming out. There's that fancy move, the compound wrap, as I go to squash the triangle. And if you are hearing the truck backing noises, that is right outside my window. Yep. And then there's the ones that are graduating and heading off to college or heading into the workforce and like all kinds of things to learn as you start being an adult. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hallelujah Mountains is not an easy pattern. It's one of the ones from Advent of Test 2025 for everyone else watching who, and this pattern has trapezoid twists on both sides of the paper. It's pretty dense. And yeah, it makes a good challenge. But yeah, 6 hours for 32 grid divisions. That is definitely a challenge. I hope that includes the time it takes to fold the grid. But yeah, on the plus side, if people are doing exams now, then you're probably going to be done with exams soon, and then you have more time to fold. Oh, good. Good. That does include 30 minutes folding the grid. Yeah, one of the resources I have available for people is a series of videos called Summer of Twists. So if you have a lot of time this summer and you want to upgrade your folding skills, Summer of Twists is something you can sign up for anytime and get email reminders prompting you to do harder and harder things all summer. And that one has, wow, everyone's coming to the house right now. That one has 10 weeks of reminders with 3 twists per week. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good pattern to take your time on. So yeah, Summer of Twists. I can actually grab that link now and drop it in the chat. I think I need to be done folding and go outside to help manage traffic in front of the house. And yeah, give me a sec. It'll come up. There we go. I'm gonna pop that link in the chat. There we go. So that has a bunch of tutorials. It also walks you through a bunch of my longer tutorials on each of these twists, so patterns that use each of these 30 different twists. And that is a great thing to practice if you have a lot of free time this summer. So I'm gonna call it there. Happy folding, everyone. I'll do this amount all the way around, get an edge like this with rotating the grid to align with the tiling breaks. I get these pleats coming out to their respective corners, so all the pleats going this way are on this edge, all the pleats going this way are on this edge. Makes a nice clean finish and a consistent amount of border all the way around. So that's all for today. Happy folding, everyone. And next time, if I remember correctly, next time I am doing terms and definitions. So if I've ever said anything that you're not clear about what it means, let me know and I'll include it in those terms and definitions next week. So happy folding and see you later.